Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Wildfires can cause extensive destruction, impacting human lives, property, and the environment. In the case of the 2024 Lone Rock Fire in Oregon, more than 1,100 miles of fence was destroyed, and the cost to replace that fencing has been estimated at more than $25 million. Here with us today to tell us about how virtual fencing is poised to help ranchers in the area reestablish grazing management plans are representatives from Sustainable Northwest and Gilliam County Soil and Water Conservation District. Welcome to you all today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
For those of you that are tuning in, thank you for being here. If you have any questions for our guests, please feel free to post those in the chat area on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're joining us from social media, simply post your questions directly in those channels. So we've got a group here today. Let's start with some introductions. Dallas, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself and your role with this project?
Yeah, my name is Dallas Hall DeFries. I'm the Regenerative Ranching Program Director with Sustainable Northwest. I was brought into this project to help after things kind of got kickstarted a little bit with Herb and his team to help coordinate some of the partnerships and resources and look at the program as a bigger whole pilot and how we can take this opportunity and use it going forward.
So Herb and team, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, please?
Sure, thanks. My name is Herb Winters. I'm the district manager for the Gilliam Soil and Water Conservation District. I coordinate with our board of directors, and with this project, helps develop our program and also develop partnerships and seek funding to get things on the ground.
The rest of you.
And my name is Nori Wright. I'm the office manager here at the Gilliam SWCD. My part in this program has been the financial and contractual aspects of it, as well as some field work and local communications. I was the one who helped coordinate a little bit more with our local FFA chapter, who was instrumental of getting these antennas built and put together.
And I'm Roger Lathrop. I'm the project manager for the Gilliam SWCD. I provide more of a technical role. I work directly with the producers to assist them with any needs they have. I work with the virtual fence company to provide coverage maps for these landowners, as well as going out and installing those antennas for the virtual fence.
So give us some background on the Lone Rock Fire, its impact on the cattle industry there in the area. Kind of frame things up for us, if you would, please.
Sure, I can tackle that. The Lone Rock Fire started on July 13th, 2024, just north of the small community of Lone Rock, very, very small community, maybe 20 residents there. Lone Rock is located in Gilliam County, Oregon. That's located in north central. The fire started during very windy conditions. The fire moved very, very fast in mostly sage grasslands, and then on into some more juniper grasslands, and then on into timber ground. Because it was a fast-moving fire, evacuation notices were put into place fairly rapidly. Ranchers were having to just scramble to cut fences so livestock could escape the wildfire. What was somewhat unique in this fire situation to us is some of these producers lost nearly 100% of their grazing lands. We quite often see wildfires out here, but we don't see the level of destruction that we saw with this one, losing, as I mentioned, nearly 100% of some producers' grazing lands.
Yeah, that's tough. So why virtual fencing? What advantage does virtual fencing technology bring to the table versus, stringing some new fencing?
That's kind of an interesting story in itself. We, over the last few years, we've had producers ask about virtual fencing. We've done some homework for them, We've had a couple of our annual dinners where we provided folks to talk about virtual fencing. We really didn't have, we had folks interested, but we didn't really have anybody adopt the technology. Fast forward to this fire, while the fire was actively burning, I had one of the ranchers that was, he was actually fighting fire when he called me. And he had attended our annual dinners, and he mentioned to me that he thought now was the time for his operation to pursue fencing. So that's when we went into action and tried our best to provide that technology for them. Additionally, he had mentioned, I did some mapping rather. I mapped around 300 miles of fence in Gilliam County alone. Most was internal fencing, and we saw an opportunity to potentially eliminate that internal fencing with virtual fence.
So when all this was happening, when the fire's coming, and were you thinking, hey, virtual fencing, this might be a great option? Or is that something that just like came from this producer recommending and saying, hey, I want to look at this?
It was really kickstarted by the producer.
Okay. So now funding's been approved to offer ranchers that were impacted a way to recover from the fire and loss of their grazing options. Tell us about how all that came about and how that's going to work.
Sure, I can do that. Once Roger discussed this option with our producers, and he did his inventory, we knew how much equipment we needed and how much it would cost. Unfortunately, our traditional funders, whether it's Natural Resource Conservation Service or the Farm Service Agency or the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, those funding lines don't really work with disaster timelines. So we had to get innovative and see what we could do to get this equipment that we really needed. And that's when Nori and I went to work, and Nori can talk about working with the Ford Family Foundation.
That's when, after Roger got us, some numbers of what we needed, that was one of our first thoughts, was the Ford Family Foundation. They're so big on supporting those rural communities. We contacted our local field coordinator, Kaylin Lane, kind of explained the need and the timeline and just kind of the necessity of it to support these producers. And they graciously awarded $75,000 to the program.
And once we had funding from the Ford Family Foundation, we went to our board, and our board of directors asked us to go to our local county court. And we explained the disaster situation to the court and asked them for emergency funding. And they graciously gave us $150,000 for the district to purchase the equipment ourselves and manage it. And so, once we had the equipment, we were able to work with our producers and, like I said, work with our local FFA chapter to get the equipment built, and a local fabricator helped us make the tower mobile. And we're really proud that we were able to accomplish that in just under 40 days. So we get the equipment out as fast as we could. So, and then ultimately, when this looked like it was going to become a larger program, is when we went to the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board and asked for a technical assistance grant so we could develop this program further. And that's when we started coordinating with Dallas, and that's how the funding worked out.
Very good. So now the virtual fencing is in place, but there's a learning process that also has to go on, right? In terms of getting ranchers. I know you've said you've hosted some events where you've talked about it, but still, when you actually have it in place, your ranchers are going to say, hey, now, what was I supposed to do? So how is this going to be administered? Where are you at in that process?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that one. So one of the reasons I was really excited when Herb called me about this project is because of the partners that are involved in it. Not only is the SWCD there really strong, but he already had other people lined up who are going to be really advantageous to the success of this project. So one of the roles that I do is kind of helping coordinate those other partners, and that's folks like OSU Extension, local NRCS people, the landowners. There's just a whole big group of us, and they themselves have some experience with virtual fencing technology. There's a group that's located outside of Burns in the Eastern Agricultural Research Center, where they've done some pilots with virtual fencing. And so we knew going into this that this is going to be a big learning curve for the ranchers. Not only are they facing the fact that they've lost a lot of their grazing land and have, all of the things that they have to deal with the devastating fire like that, but now they're adopting a new technology that they've never used before. And so it's really our goal to bring this project together and to provide them the resources and the support that they need so that they can succeed. While also still having really realistic expectations of this is a pilot. We're all kind of learning together. And one exciting thing that's coming out of this OWEB grant is that we are hiring a position to be more of a boots on the ground person as well. So somebody who's out there meeting with these ranchers, hearing the problems that they're having, and kind of interfacing and just providing more capacity for them as they're learning this process as well.
Yeah, and I think it's neat because this is actually a fairly large scale virtual fencing project. And a lot of times when we talk about virtual fencing, it's just kind of a small, as you say, pilot project or just someone on the side who's doing something. So to see it scaled to this level is pretty interesting, pretty unique. So with that in mind, talk to us about how the success of this large scale virtual fencing project, how's that going to be measured? Where do you say, yes, this worked? How do you get to that point?
I think for us on a local level, just assisting these producers any way that we can so that they can continue to maintain their operations. A lot of these are multi-generational families that have been ranching in this area, and we just want to help them any way we can to continue to operate the way they have in the past, all the while protecting the natural resources that they've worked so hard to protect over generations.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that.
Continuing to maintain that.
Oh, sorry, Roger.
Go ahead, Dallas. Dallas.
I was just going to say to add on to that too, I think that local success is really important, and we want to wrap that into a bigger project. As you mentioned, this is on a big landscape. And so I think it's our goal to show how this technology can be used in instances like this and then potentially scale it. We know wildfire isn't going away in the West. Mm-hmm. And so is this a way that we can do this pilot, figure out the ways it works, the way it doesn't work, and make this a really usable tool for ranchers going forward.
So now, did you work with a single virtual fencing company, or did you have a couple companies you worked with? Walk us through how that process is.
As of now, we are just working with a single virtual fencing company. We have done our homework and research looking into some of the others. Some of the others require really good cell phone coverage to callers at all times. We are in a very spotty coverage area. So the company that we're working with seemed to be a little more fitting for our topography out here. That being said, we're still keeping eyes on other companies, and if a landowner wants to try a different company, we're willing to do so.
Yeah, that's always important, that connectivity. So have you found in all the research that you've done and the trials that you run here with actual virtual fencing, any restrictions on herd size that a rancher can run under this program? Is there something that you're saying, okay, this is the limit, or what have you found?
So with this particular project, as mentioned earlier, we just did a thorough inventory of the topography. We had coverage maps built for the areas that we planned on utilizing this technology, and then we did some inventory of cattle numbers, and just how we could, if needed, how we could get collars on all the cattle affected by this fire. Really, the only restriction is money. You can go as big as you want. It just it would take more collars and more towers to go bigger, and we set our marks to go as big as possible with those cattle that were affected by the fire, and that's where we set our mark.
So let's talk about wildfires in general. If you have virtual fencing in place and there happens to be a wildfire in the area and you need to get those animals out of there, is that something that's much easier with virtual fencing? Can you, because I know sometimes you can just, change the parameters of your fencing on your phone or such. Is it able to move your cattle and take them out of harm's way a little easier?
That's a great question. And I've looked into that and explored that at length. And what I've seen, one of the biggest assets is when a fire starts, you can go to your computer screen and see where all your cows are within a pasture. And so while a rancher is actively trying to fight fire, he can take a little bit of time, even if that fire is 10 miles away from a particular herd. He can get on his phone and look and see where all his cows are and know how far away they are from harm's way. Additionally, he can start to confine those if he's concerned about having to evacuate. He can, potentially go from 1,000-acre pasture to a 500-acre pasture and start to somewhat corral those cattle in case they need to evacuate. They can also create new safe pastures. So if they do have to evacuate, they can take them to a place where maybe there's not permanent fencing in place, and they can draw in a virtual fence boundary and keep them in that safe place. Another one that I think is really big too is that in the case of the Lone Rock fire, they really didn't have time to go out and gather with their horses and get those cows to safety. They were literally just cutting fences. And then following the fire, we were asking producers, what kind of losses they had. And they didn't know for several weeks because they were still trying to locate all those cattle. With virtual fence in place, if the fire is moving so rapidly that they don't have time to move them to safety, they can just literally hit a button and drop that virtual fence. But then a really neat component of that is once the fire's out and they're trying to gather up all their cattle, they can see on the computer screen where those cattle are and locate them and get them brought back to where they need to be. So I definitely see some significant benefits to having virtual fence in place in a fire situation.
Very interesting. Now, the announcement is out there in the ranching community out in your area. And how has the response been to date from ranchers? I mean, it sounds like you've had some folks say, yeah, let's do this. Is it pretty across the board, or you just got a few people that are involved in this initiative on virtual fencing?
We did have some early adopters. Fortunately, a lot of the producers were able to go to some grass within the Conservation Reserve Program. Most of those did have fencing in place. There wasn't a lot of early need for virtual fence because of that option. That being said, we did have 2 producers that went ahead and collared cows knowing that they were going to utilize the technology more for summer and fall grazing. And they really just wanted to get familiar with the herd manager software, the software that goes along with the virtual fence, and get familiar with it. We currently have 3 antennas out, and we're planning on over the next few weeks putting potentially all 10 of them out. And we do expect by the end of this summer to early fall to have around 800 cows collared to utilize grass throughout eastern Oregon, really, and probably all 10 of our antennas in place.
So you think these producers, early indications that they will stay with virtual fencing even when the grass comes back as opposed to putting, reinstalling fencing? Have you gotten any kind of feedback in that regard?
Definitely. Yeah, they're very pleased with the technology, even just with what they were able to do in a situation where they really didn't need the virtual fencing. We have one particular producer that comes in every couple of weeks with a new idea how they could use this technology to control cheatgrass, to better manage our juniper, to better manage their grass, to utilize areas that their cattle didn't utilize before. The producers that we have worked with are super excited, and I expect they will continue with this technology in the future.
So very, very impressive, actually, that you found a creative solution here for ranchers and that otherwise were so impacted by such devastation from that wildfire and continues to evolve, it sounds like. That being so, what would be your key takeaways, your words of wisdom that you want to leave our audience with today? Dallas, can we start with you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think we've kind of joked just between, Herb and Nori and Roger and I, it's really easy to get excited about this project and what we're doing. There's a lot of really great things coming together and a lot of opportunity here. But we have to kind of remind ourselves that there's going to be some lessons that we're learning in this project. And as we kind of go along, and we'll probably get humbled here and there. And so that's okay. But yeah, so I think the key takeaway is, I think the idea is there, the partners are there, the ranchers are there, the technology is there, but this is still a work in progress, and we're excited to see how it shakes out.
Roger or Nori or Herb, what are your thoughts to leave us with today?
Well, I think one thing I would want to leave here today with is just this was a really small rural community that came together to come up with non-traditional solutions. Everybody was involved in the community, from the county judge to nonprofits to the high school ag program. And, everyone helped each other. And, we're really proud of that. We're really proud of our community. And we're really looking forward to turning this wildfire into an opportunity and seeing where this program evolves over time. So.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us here today and bringing us this update, and congratulations on your project. And we'd love to hear your learnings as you move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, we appreciate all of you and our audience tuning in today. Until next time, for Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.